6 months after the Devour War, Captain Jake Morrison stood before the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Confederation, wearing the formal dress uniform of Earth's first galactic ambassador. The massive chamber held representatives from over 100 different species, all of them waiting to hear how humanity would respond to the Cathara crisis. The Cathara attacks had continued for weeks, targeting Zephyrian colonies with increasing boldness. Their military commanders had publicly declared that Deathworlders were no different from any other species once their numbers were reduced through sustained assault. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Speaker Velithka stood at the center of the assembly hall, his translucent form glowing softly under the chamber's artificial lighting. Honored delegates, we gather today to witness humanity's response to unprovoked aggression against Confederation members. Captain Morrison will speak for his species. Jake walked to the speaker's platform, aware that every word he spoke would be analyzed by civilizations across the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Carter sat in the human delegation section, ready to provide technical explanations if needed. Commander Rick Taylor and Sergeant Ben Hughes were aboard the USS Thunderbolt, preparing for whatever military action might be required. Delegates of the Confederation, Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation. Systems. 6 months ago, you asked Deathworlders for help against an enemy you could not defeat. We gave you that help in the only way we knew how. Today, we face a different kind of test. The chamber was completely silent as Jake continued. The Cathara believe that human military doctrine is limited to total destruction. They think that because we destroyed the Devourers completely, we cannot fight any other way. They are about to discover that Deathworld warriors are far more dangerous when they choose to show restraint. A ripple of nervous energy passed through the assembled delegates. The Crystalline Collective's representative, a being made of living mineral, spoke up. Ambassador Morrison, how does your species propose to respond to Cathara aggression without resorting to the same methods used against the Devourers? Jake smiled, and somehow that expression carried more threat than any weapon. We're going to do something the galaxy has never seen before. We're going to demonstrate what happens when Deathworlders decide to be merciful. 3 hours later, the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Cathara home system. The USS Thunderbolt led a formation of 24 Earth ships, the largest human military force ever assembled outside of the Sol system. But this time, their mission was not destruction, but demonstration. Commander Taylor stood on the bridge, studying the tactical displays that showed over 400 Cathara warships arrayed in defensive positions around their homeworld. Sir, they've deployed their entire fleet. They're preparing for the same kind of battle we fought against the Devourers. They're thinking like every other species in the galaxy, Jake replied from his position in the captain's chair. They expect us to fight their ships, defeat their fleets, and then negotiate terms. They have no idea what Deathworld warfare actually looks like when we're not trying to exterminate the enemy. Dr. Carter worked at her science station, coordinating with the technical teams across the human fleet. Captain, all ships report ready for Operation Mercy Strike. The demonstration packages are prepared for deployment. Jake opened a communication channel that would broadcast to every ship in the Cathara fleet and every planetary communication center in their system. When he spoke, his words were heard simultaneously by over 8 billion Cathara citizens. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. The Cathara government has engaged in unprovoked attacks against Confederation members. You have 1 hour to cease all military operations and withdraw your forces from Zephyrian space. This is your only warning. The response came from what appeared to be the Cathara fleet commander, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color as he spoke. Human captain, you are outnumbered 20 to 1. Your species may have defeated the mindless Devourers, but we are intelligent warriors with superior numbers and defensive positions. Withdraw now or face destruction. Jake nodded to Dr. Carter. Lisa, show them what Deathworld precision looks like. What happened next would be studied by military academers across the galaxy for generations to come. The human fleet did not attack the Cathara ships or their defensive installations. Instead, 24 precisely targeted projectiles launched from the Earth vessels, each one aimed at a specific point on the planet's surface. The kinetic rounds struck their targets with mathematical precision. Every major military production facility on the Cathara homeworld was destroyed in the span of 30 seconds. Weapons factories, ship construction yards, military training centers, and command bunkers were reduced to smoking craters, while the civilian areas around them remained completely untouched. "Impossible," whispered the Cathara commander. "No species can achieve that level of targeting accuracy." Commander Taylor stepped forward. "Commander, we've just destroyed your entire military-industrial complex without harming a single civilian. Your fleet is now cut off from all resupply and reinforcement. Your government can no longer build weapons or train soldiers. But your people are safe, your cities are intact, and your culture will continue." The demonstration continued as human ships moved through the Cathara system with mechanical efficiency. Every military outpost, every weapons depot, every strategic installation was destroyed with surgical precision. The Cathara fleet watched helplessly as their entire military infrastructure was dismantled around them, while their civilian population remained completely unharmed. Sergeant Ben Hughes coordinated the targeting from his weapons station. "Sir, all military targets neutralized. 0 civilian casualties reported. The Cathara fleet is now completely isolated and unable to conduct sustained military operations." Jake reopened the communication channel to the Cathara fleet. "Commander, your military capacity has been eliminated. Your ships can fight one battle, but after that, you have no way to rearm, refuel, or repair them. You can choose to attack us now and watch your entire fleet be destroyed, or you can accept that this war is over." The Cathara commander stared at his tactical displays, seeing his civilization's military power reduced to nothing in less than an hour. How did you achieve such precision? Such complete control over the battlefield?" Dr. Carter answered from the science station. "Commander, humans evolved on a world where we had to be precise to survive. We learned to hunt prey without damaging the parts we needed to eat. We learned to fight enemies without destroying the resources we needed to live. Precision isn't just a military tactic for us, it's a survival skill." The Cathara fleet began powering down their weapon systems. Their commander's voice carried defeat and something that might have been respect. "We surrender. We will withdraw from Zephyrian space and cease all military operations against Confederation members." News of the Cathara defeat spread across the galaxy within hours. The human fleet had achieved complete victory without firing a single shot at an enemy vessel. They had demonstrated that Deathworld military doctrine was not limited to total destruction, but could be applied with surgical precision when the situation required it. Back in the Confederation Assembly, Speaker Velithka addressed the gathered delegates. "The humans have shown us something we thought impossible. They have proven that the deadliest warriors can also be the most merciful protectors." The Crystalline Collective's representative spoke for many of the assembled species. "We understand now. Deathworlders do not bring only annihilation. They bring the end of conflict itself. When victory is so complete and so inevitable, resistance becomes pointless." Jake returned to the assembly hall to address the delegates one final time. "The galaxy asked us for protection, and we provided it. But we want to make something clear. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy or impose our will on other species. We want to ensure that peaceful civilizations can remain peaceful." The chamber erupted in discussion as species that had feared human military power began to understand what Deathworld protection actually meant. The humans had demonstrated that they could destroy any enemy completely, but they had also shown that they could choose not to. That choice, more than any weapon, made them the most effective peacekeepers the galaxy had ever known. As Jake left the assembly hall, he reflected on how humanity had found its place among the stars. They had come to the galaxy as rescuers and had become its guardians. The price of that protection was the knowledge that Deathworlders would always be the most dangerous species in known space, but they had chosen to use that danger to preserve peace rather than create conquest. The galaxy was safe, but it would never forget the lesson it had learned. Sometimes, to achieve true peace, you needed protectors who were capable of ending any threat permanently, but wise enough to choose mercy over destruction. 3 weeks after the Battle of Zephyr Prime, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his quarters aboard the USS Thunderbolt, staring at a stack of communication reports that had been flooding in from across the galaxy. Each message told the same story, from a different perspective, and none of them were entirely positive. The first report came from the Ethereal Collective, a species of energy beings who existed in a state somewhere between matter and pure thought. Their message was polite, but carried an unmistakable undertone of fear. "We extend our gratitude to the human species for eliminating the devourer threat," the translation read. "However, we must express concern about the methods employed. The complete destruction of an entire species, even a hostile one, raises questions about the nature of those who claim to be our protectors." Dr. Lisa Carter knocked on Jake's door and entered with her own collection of reports. She sat down across from him, her face showing the strain of the past few weeks. Since the battle, she had been working around the clock to analyze the reactions of various alien species to humanity's victory. "Captain, we've received responses from 47 different civilizations," Lisa said, scrolling through her tablet. "The reactions are split almost evenly. Half of them are grateful and want to establish formal alliances with Earth. The other half are terrified of us and want to limit human expansion into their territories." Jake rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of unintended consequences. "What about the Zephyrians? How are they handling the aftermath?" Lisa's expression grew troubled. "That's actually the most concerning part. Speaker Velithka has been trying to explain human military doctrine to the Galactic Confederation Council. The other species are having difficulty understanding how we can be both saviors and potential threats at the same time." Commander Rick Taylor entered the quarters, carrying his own set of reports from Earth Command. "Sir, we've got a bigger problem developing. 3 separate alien civilizations have formally requested that humanity withdraw from their space sectors. They're not hostile, but they're making it clear that they don't want Deathworlders as neighbors." The irony was not lost on Jake. Humanity had responded to a desperate plea for help, saved an entire species from extinction, and potentially prevented the devourers from consuming other worlds. But their methods had been so efficient and brutal that the galaxy was now afraid of its own protectors. Lieutenant Amy Brooks appeared on the communication screen from the bridge. "Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Speaker Velithka. He says it's urgent and requests immediate private communication." Jake nodded. "Put him through." The Zephyrian leader appeared on the main display, his translucent features showing signs of exhaustion and stress. Behind him, Jake could see other aliens moving about in what appeared to be a council chamber. "Captain Morrison, I must speak with you about a development that threatens the stability of our entire sector," Velithka began. "The Cathara have declared their intention to test humanity's resolve. They believe that your victory over the Devourers was a fluke and that Deathworlders can be defeated through superior numbers." Jake felt his blood turn cold. The Cathara were a militaristic species that the Galactic Confederation had been containing through diplomatic pressure for over a century. They had a reputation for aggression and expansion, but they had always been held in check by the threat of economic sanctions and political isolation. "What exactly are they planning?" Jake asked. They have launched raids against 3 Zephyrian colonies in the outer systems, Velithka replied. They are using the same tactics they have employed for generations. Overwhelming force applied against civilian targets to force political concessions. They expect us to respond as we always have, with diplomatic protests and defensive measures designed to minimize casualties. Dr. Carter leaned forward. Speaker, what kind of defensive response are the Zephians planning? The aliens' response revealed the fundamental problem that humanity had inadvertently created. Dr. Carter, we do not know how to respond differently than we always have. Our entire civilization is built on the principle that all life is sacred. We cannot simply abandon our core beliefs, even when facing aggression. Commander Taylor studied his tactical reports. Sir, the Cathara have deployed over 800 ships to this operation. They're not just testing us. They're preparing for a full-scale war if they think they can win. Jake realized that humanity was facing its first major diplomatic crisis since making contact with galactic civilization. The Cathara were treating the humans like any other Confederation species, expecting the same restrained response that had allowed aggressive civilizations to exist for centuries without facing total defeat. Speaker Velithka, what does the Confederation Council expect from humanity in this situation? Jake asked. The Zephyrian leader was quiet for a long moment before responding. Captain, that is precisely the problem. Half of the Council expects you to respond as we would, with measured force designed to contain the threat without causing unnecessary casualties. The other half fears that you will respond as you did against the Devourers, with weapons designed to eliminate the threat permanently. Sergeant Ben Hughes joined the conversation from his position at the weapons console. Sir, if the Cathara are attacking civilian targets, they're not playing by the same rules as the rest of the galaxy. They're counting on everyone else to show restraint while they use unlimited force. Jake stood up and walked to the viewport in his quarters, looking out at the stars that now seemed filled with political complexities he had never imagined. Velithka, what would happen if we responded to Cathara aggression the same way we responded to the Devourer threat? The aliens' response was barely a whisper. Captain, the Cathara are not mindless bioconstructs driven by a hive mind. They are a living, breathing civilization with families, cultures, and billions of innocent individuals who have no control over their government's actions. If you were to apply Deathworld military doctrine against them, you would be committing what the rest of the galaxy would consider genocide. The weight of the situation settled on Jake like a physical force. Humanity had saved the galaxy from one threat, but their methods had been so effective that they now faced an impossible choice. They could respond to Cathara aggression with the same restraint shown by other Confederation species, potentially allowing the attacks to continue indefinitely. Or they could respond with human military efficiency, risking the complete destruction of an entire civilization and confirming the galaxy's worst fears about Deathworlders. Dr. Carter spoke up from her chair. Captain, there might be a third option. What if we could demonstrate human military capability without actually destroying the Cathara civilization? Show them that Deathworld warfare isn't limited to total annihilation? Commander Taylor nodded thoughtfully. A demonstration of overwhelming force without actually using it to its full extent. Make it clear that we could destroy them completely, but choose not to. Jake turned back to the communication screen where Speaker Velithka waited for humanity's response. Speaker, we need to arrange a meeting with the Confederation Council. It's time for the galaxy to understand exactly what kind of allies they've gained. The Zephyrian leader's expression showed both hope and fear. Captain, I will arrange the meeting. But I must warn you, the Council is divided on the question of human involvement in galactic affairs. Some see you as necessary protectors, while others view you as a potential threat that must be contained. After the communication ended, Jake sat back down with his senior officers. The reports spread across his desk told the story of a galaxy that had asked for salvation and received exactly what they had requested, but in a form they had never expected. "Sir, what are your orders?" Commander Taylor asked. Jake looked at his crew, realizing that the decisions made in the next few days would determine humanity's place in galactic civilization for generations to come. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders were the most efficient killers in known space, but they were about to learn something equally important, that the deadliest warriors could also choose to show mercy. "We're going to show them that humans don't just know how to fight," Jake said. "We're going to show them that we know when not to fight. But first, we need to make sure the Cathara understand exactly what they're dealing with." The celebration aboard the USS Thunderbolt was short-lived. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the ship's war room, studying the holographic display that showed the current state of the Zephyr system. While they had destroyed the Devourer fleet around the homeworld, long-range sensors were detecting something that made his blood run cold. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Lisa Carter said, her voice tight with worry. She manipulated the holographic controls, and the display zoomed out to show the entire sector of space. Red dots appeared on the map like a spreading infection, each one representing a Devourer fleet moving toward their position. "How many?" Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer would be bad. 17 separate fleets, sir, Lieutenant." Amy Brooks reported from her station. "Total enemy vessel count is over 3,000 ships. They're converging on this system from every direction." Commander Rick Taylor studied the tactical projection with the calm focus that had made him one of Earth's best military strategists. "Sir, the Devourers aren't just attacking randomly. This is a coordinated response to our interference. They're treating us as a serious threat." Sergeant Ben Hughes looked up from his weapons analysis console. "Captain, I've been studying the wreckage from the first battle. These bioships are more advanced than we initially thought. They can adapt their defenses based on the weapons used against them. The next fight is going to be much harder." Jake nodded grimly. The first battle had been won through surprise and superior firepower, but the Devourers had clearly learned from their defeat. The next engagement would test human military doctrine against an enemy that could evolve its tactics in real time. Speaker Valithka appeared on the main communication screen, his translucent features showing the strain of the past few hours. "Captain Morrison, our long-range sensors confirm what your ships have detected. The Devourers are bringing their full strength to bear against us. We estimate they will arrive in less than 2 days." "What about evacuation?" Jake asked. "How many of your people can we get off-world before they arrive?" The alien's expression grew even more sorrowful. "Zephyr Prime is home to over 2 billion souls. Our evacuation ships can only carry a fraction of our population. Most of our people will have to remain and hope that your warriors can achieve another miracle." Dr. Carter had been working furiously with the Zephyrian scientists, trying to understand the Devourer technology. "Captain, I think I found something important. The Devourer ships aren't just individual vessels. They're all connected to a central hive mind that coordinates their actions. If we could disrupt that connection, their entire fleet might become vulnerable." Jake felt a spark of hope. What would it take to disrupt their network? The hive mind operates from a massive command ship that stays in the center of their formations. Lisa explained. "It's heavily shielded and protected by hundreds of smaller vessels. Getting close enough to attack, it would require fighting through their entire fleet." "Then that's what we'll do," Jake said with quiet determination. "Rick, contact the other ship captains. I want every available vessel prepared for full combat operations. Ben, start working on specialized weapons for the command ship. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're going to need every ship they can spare." Over the next day and a half, the human fleet prepared for the largest space battle in history. The 6 Earth ships were joined by 12 more vessels that had been rushed from nearby systems. bringing the total human force to 18 ships. Against 3,000 Devourer vessels, the odds were still overwhelming, but Jake knew that humans had won impossible battles before. The Zephyrians provided whatever assistance they could, sharing their knowledge of Devourer tactics and technology. But Jake could see the doubt in their eyes. They had watched humanity's first victory, but the coming battle would be on a scale beyond anything they had ever imagined. When the Devourer fleets finally arrived, they filled the space around Zephyr, prime like a living nightmare. The bioships moved with coordinated precision, forming attack patterns that would have been impossible for individual vessels to maintain. At the center of the formation, a massive command ship pulsed with organic light, its surface covered in growths that resembled both machinery and living tissue. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake broadcast to the human fleet. "Remember, our goal is to reach that command ship and shut down their hive mind. Every other target is secondary. Stay focused, stay together, and show these things what Deathworlders can do." The battle began with the Devourers launching their first wave. Hundreds of bioships swept toward the human fleet, their dissolving energy weapons creating streams of destructive force that could eat through any known material. But the humans had learned from their previous encounter. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, the human ships split into smaller groups, using their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the Devourer weapons while striking at vulnerable points. The USS Thunderbolt led one group in a flanking maneuver, while the other ships created diversions and drew enemy fire. Commander Taylor coordinated the battle from his position on the bridge, calling out targets and directing the fleets. Movements like a conductor leading a deadly orchestra. Phoenix Squadron hit their left flank. Ranger Group punched through their center line. All ships, remember to keep moving. Don't let them lock onto you. The space around Zephyr Prime became a maze of laser fire, exploding ships, and the brilliant flashes of nuclear detonations. The Devourer bioships tried to adapt their tactics, but human unpredictability proved too much for their hive mind to counter. Every time the enemy thought they had figured out a pattern, the humans would change their approach. Dr. Carter worked frantically in the ship's laboratory, developing new weapons specifically designed to counter Devourer biology. Her team had created computer viruses that could infect the organic components of the bioships, causing them to turn against their own systems. "Captain, I'm ready to deploy the biological warfare package," Lisa reported. "But I need to get close enough the command ship to upload it directly into their network." Jake looked at the tactical display, seeing the massive enemy command vessel surrounded by layers of protective ships. Getting close enough to upload Lisa's virus would require flying through the heart of the Devourer fleet, facing concentrated fire from hundreds of enemy vessels. "Ben, can you clear us a path to that command ship?" Jake asked. Sergeant Hughes smiled grimly. "Sir, I've been saving our best weapons for exactly this moment. Give me 5 minutes to program the targeting computers." The USS Thunderbolt and her escorts made their final approach toward the Devourer command ship, flying through a storm of enemy fire that lit up the darkness of space. Human shields held against the dissolving energy weapons, while return fire from the Earthships carved through the enemy formation like a sword through flesh. As they closed the distance, Jake could see the massive bulk of the command ship growing larger on the view screen. The vessel was easily 10 times the size of any human ship, its surface covered in organic growths that pulsed with malevolent intelligence. This was the brain of the Devourer fleet, the central mind that coordinated their galaxy-spanning campaign of destruction. "Upload ready, Captain," Dr. Carter announced. "Beginning transmission now." The virus that Lisa had created was unlike anything in human history. It combined Earth's most advanced computer programming with weapons designed specifically to attack living tissue. When it entered the Devourer network, it would not just disable their systems, but would actively destroy the organic components that made their hive mind possible. Transmission complete, Lisa reported. The virus is spreading through their network now. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Devourer ships began to shut down. The coordinated movements of the bioships became erratic, then stopped entirely. The massive command ship at the center of the formation began to convulse, its organic surface writhing as the virus destroyed it from within. Within an hour, the space around Zephyr Prime was filled with the drifting hulks of dead bioships. The Devourer fleet that had seemed so unstoppable was reduced to lifeless debris, destroyed not by superior numbers or better weapons, but by the ruthless efficiency of Deathworld warfare. Speaker Velithka's voice came through the communication system, filled with wonder and fear. Captain Morrison, you have achieved the impossible. The Devourers are completely defeated. But I must ask, what manner of beings creates weapons that can destroy life itself so completely? Jake looked out at the field of dead ships and realized that humanity had just announced its nature to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They had not just won a battle, they had demonstrated that when Deathworlders went to war, they fought to win absolutely and permanently. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyr Prime system, and Captain Jake Morrison felt his breath catch in his throat. Through the main viewscreen of the USS Thunderbolt, he could see a sight that would be burned into his memory forever. The alien homeworld hung in space like a blue-green jewel, but it was surrounded by a ring of massive dark shapes that pulsed with sickly red light. "My God," whispered Dr. Lisa Carter from her position next to Jake's command chair. "Those bioships are enormous. Each one is the size of a city." Commander Rick Taylor studied the tactical readouts with professional focus. "Sir, I'm counting. Over 200 enemy vessels in orbit around the planet. They're not attacking directly, but they're clearly maintaining a siege." Lieutenant Amy Brooks worked frantically at her communications station, trying to establish contact with the planets. "Surface. Captain, I'm getting multiple signals from the surface. The Zephyrians are broadcasting on every frequency, asking for immediate assistance with evacuation procedures." Jake felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. The 6 ships of his small fleet were outnumbered 40-1 by the enemy forces surrounding Zephyr Prime. By any reasonable military analysis, they should retreat immediately and call for massive reinforcements. But the desperate messages coming from the planet below made it clear that there was no time for a careful, measured response. "Open a channel to the surface," Jake ordered. "Let them know we're here to help." The main viewscreen flickered and, filled with the image of an alien unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. The being that appeared was tall and graceful, with pale translucent skin that seemed to glow with an inner light. Its eyes were large and gentle, filled with an intelligence that was clearly ancient and wise. When it spoke, its voice carried a musical quality that the translation systems rendered into perfect English. "I am Velithka, speaker for the Zephyrian Council," the alien said. "We received your response to our distress call. We are grateful beyond words that someone has answered our plea for help." Jake straightened in his chair, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to provide whatever assistance we can. Can you give us a tactical overview of the situation?" Velithka's expression grew even more sad, if that was possible. "The Devourers arrived in our system 6 cycles ago. They have consumed 3 of our outer worlds completely, leaving nothing behind but dead rock. We have tried every form of communication, every diplomatic protocol in our databases. They do not respond to our attempts at negotiation." Dr. Carter leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Speaker Velithka, can you tell us about your defensive capabilities? What weapons do you have available?" The alien's response sent a chill through every human on the bridge. We do not possess weapons in the sense that you might understand them. Our defensive systems are designed to disable attacking vessels without causing permanent harm. We believe that all life is sacred, even the life of those who would harm us. Sergeant Ben Hughes, who had been quietly analyzing the enemy formations, looked up from his tactical display with obvious disbelief. "Sir, they're telling us they've been fighting a war for their survival without actually trying to kill their enemies." Before Jake could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. The Devourer bioships had detected the human fleet and were beginning to move. Amy's voice cut through the noise with urgent professionalism. "Captain, the enemy vessels are breaking orbit and moving to intercept us. Estimated time to weapons range is 12 minutes. Jake made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. All ships, battle stations, prepare for full engagement. Speaker Velithka, we're going to show you how humans fight." The view screen split to show both the approaching enemy fleet and the confused face of the Zephyrian leader. "Captain Morrison, surely you do not intend to engage such overwhelming numbers directly? Our tactical computers suggest immediate retreat to gather additional forces." "With respect, Speaker, your tactical computers were designed by people who don't fight to win," Jake replied. "Ben, give me a full weapons analysis of those bioships. Rick, coordinate with the other captains. I want every ship ready for maximum firepower." As the human fleet prepared for battle, Dr. Carter established a direct link with the Zephyrian Defense Forces. What she saw through their monitoring systems made her understand just how different human and alien approaches to warfare really were. The Zephyrian ships were works of art, flowing organic curves that moved through space like living creatures. Their defensive systems created beautiful energy fields that deflected incoming attacks without destroying them. When they returned fire, their weapons produced stunning light shows that were designed to overload enemy systems temporarily, not to cause permanent damage. "Lisa, what are you seeing?" Jake asked, noticing the shocked expression on his science officer's face. "Captain, they're fighting the most polite war I've ever witnessed," Lisa said, her voice filled with amazement and horror. "Their weapons are designed to be completely non-lethal. They're trying to disable the Devourer ship so they can be captured and studied, not destroyed." The first wave of Devourer bioships reached firing range of the human fleet, and Jake got his first close look at humanity's new enemies. The creatures were nightmarish combinations of organic tissue and mechanical components, pulsing with malevolent energy that seemed to drain light from the space around them. Their weapons didn't fire discrete shots, but rather projected streams of some kind of dissolving energy that ate through anything it touched. "All ships, open fire," Jake commanded. The difference between human and alien warfare became immediately apparent. While the Zephyrian defenders continued their beautiful, restrained battle against the Devourer forces, the human ships unleashed hell itself. The USS Thunderbolt's main railgun fired a tungsten projectile at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic round punched through the nearest bioship like it was made of paper, creating an explosion that lit up the entire battle area. Nuclear warheads detonated in carefully calculated patterns, creating overlapping fields of destruction that vaporized entire August squadrons of enemy vessels. The Zephyrian fleet stopped fighting entirely, their crews too stunned to continue their operations. Through the communication link, Jake could hear Velithka's voice, filled with a mixture of awe and terror. "What manner of beings are you?" the alien asked. "Your weapons do not disable or capture. They completely destroy everything they touch." Commander Taylor, coordinating the fleet's attack patterns, answered without taking his eyes off his tactical display. "Speaker, we come from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We learned to fight by fighting for our lives against everything from microscopic diseases to predators that could tear us apart with their bare claws." The battle continued for less than an hour. When it was over, the space around Zephyr Prime was filled with the expanding clouds of debris that had once been the mighty Devourer fleet. Not a single enemy ship had survived the human assault. The bioships that had seemed so terrifying and unstoppable had been systematically annihilated by weapons designed on a world where the only options were victory or extinction. In the silence that followed, Velithka's voice came through the communication system, quiet and thoughtful. We asked for salvation from those who understand war. We did not realize that there were beings in the galaxy who understood war so completely that they had made it into an art form of absolute destruction. Jake looked out at the debris field that surrounded Zephyr Prime, knowing that humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. The Zephyrians had sought help from warriors, and they had received exactly what they asked for. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for the kind of help that Deathworlders provided. The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the USS Thunderbolt like the screams of dying metal. Captain Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the flashing red lights on his command console. 3 days without proper sleep had left him feeling like his brain was wrapped in cotton, but the urgency in his communications officer's voice cut through his exhaustion like a knife. "Sir, we're getting something strange on long-range communications," Lieutenant Amy Brooks called out from her station. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls, trying to clean up the signal that crackled with static and interference. "It's not human origin, and it's not coming from any known colony." Jake pushed himself up from his captain's chair and walked over to Amy's station. The bridge crew of the Thunderbolt had served together for 3 years, and they had never encountered anything like this. Earth's expansion into space had been steady but cautious. They had found dead worlds, empty systems, and plenty of resources, but never any sign of intelligent alien life. "Can you isolate the source?" Jake asked, leaning over Amy's shoulder to look at the readouts. The signal strength was weak, but it was definitely artificial. Someone or something was trying to communicate across the vast darkness of space. Doctor Lisa Carter emerged from the elevator that connected the bridge to the science labs below. She was the ship's head scientist, a woman who had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien life. Her hands shook slightly as she approached the captain, holding a tablet filled with preliminary analysis data. "Captain, this is incredible," Lisa said, her voice barely containing her excitement. "The signal contains mathematical sequences that prove intelligence, but there's something else. The transmission includes what appears to be universal translation protocols. Whoever sent this wants us to understand them." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. First contact with an alien species was something humanity had dreamed about and feared in equal measure. Earth's military leaders had spent decades preparing for this moment, creating protocols and procedures for every possible scenario. But now that it was actually happening, Jake realized that no amount of preparation could have readied him for this feeling of standing at the edge of the unknown. "Put it through the translation matrix," Jake ordered. "Let's see what they're trying to tell us." The bridge fell silent as Amy worked her technical magic. The static-filled alien transmission slowly transformed into something resembling human speech. The voice that emerged from the speakers was haunting, filled with a desperation that needed no translation. "To any who can hear this message, we are the Zephyrians of the Galactic Confederation. Our worlds are dying. Our people face extinction at the hands of an enemy we cannot defeat. We have tried diplomacy, we have tried defense, we have tried retreat. Nothing stops them. They consume everything in their path, leaving only emptiness behind." The transmission paused, and Jake could hear what sounded like breathing, though it was different from human respiration. When the voice continued, it carried the weight of absolute defeat. "We offer everything we have to anyone who can help us. Our technology, our knowledge, our resources, all of it belongs to whoever can save us from the darkness that devours worlds. We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight as our enemies fight. We need those who understand war as we understand peace. The transmission repeated itself 3 times before falling silent. The bridge crew stared at each other in stunned silence. Commander Rick Taylor, Jake's second in command, was the first to speak. "Sir, they're asking for military assistance against an enemy they can't handle," Rick said, his tactical mind already working through the implications. "But we don't know anything about their capabilities, their enemy's strength, or what we'd be getting into." Jake nodded, but his attention was focused on Dr. Carter, who was frantically working on her tablet. Her face had gone pale as she processed the data the transmission had carried along with the message. "Lisa, what are you seeing?" Jake asked. "Captain." The signal didn't just carry their message. It included star charts, tactical data, and battlefield recordings. Lisa's voice was quiet, almost whispered. "Their enemy isn't just winning. They're completely overwhelming the Zephyrians. Every engagement ends in total defeat for the aliens." She turned her tablet around so Jake could see the screen. The recording showed battles unlike anything in human military history. The Zephyrian ships fired weapons that seemed designed to disable rather than destroy. Their tactics focused on retreat and evacuation rather than direct engagement. Even when they had numerical superiority, they fought like they were trying not to hurt their enemies too badly. "They're fighting with one hand tied behind their backs," Sergeant Ben Hughes observed from his position at the tactical station. Ben was the ship's weapons specialist, and Jake could see the professional frustration in his eyes as he watched the alien battle recordings. Their weapons are designed to stun, not kill. Their tactics prioritize preserving enemy life over winning. Battles. Jake studied the data for several minutes, his mind racing through the possibilities and dangers. Humanity had spent centuries fighting wars on Earth, developing weapons and tactics designed for one purpose: complete victory over their enemies. The human military doctrine was simple and brutal. Identify the threat, apply overwhelming force. Eliminate the threat permanently. "Sir," Amy spoke up from her communication station. "I'm reading multiple ships jumping into our system. They're broadcasting Earth Defense Force identification codes." Jake looked at the tactical display and saw 6 more human warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Word of the alien transmission had already reached Earth Command, and they were sending reinforcements. Within hours, Jake knew he would be receiving orders about how to respond to this first contact situation. Dr. Carter continued analyzing the alien data, her excitement growing with each discovery. "Captain, their technology is incredible. Their ships are powered by controlled biological processes. Their computers are grown rather than built. Their medicine can apparently extend life far beyond human limits. If we could establish peaceful relations with them, the benefits to humanity would be enormous." But Jake was looking at the tactical analysis of the Zephyrian enemies, the creatures they called Devourers. The recording showed massive bioships that seemed to consume everything they encountered. Planets stripped bare, entire star systems left as empty husks. It was clear that whatever these Devourers were, they represented a threat not just to the Zephyrians, but potentially to all life in the galaxy. "Rick, get me a full tactical assessment of our capabilities versus this Devourer threat," Jake ordered. "Ben, I want you to analyze their weapons and defenses. Lisa, see if you can establish real-time communication with the Zephyrians." As his crew jumped into action, Jake stared out at the stars through the bridge's main viewport. Humanity had spent so long wondering if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew they weren't alone, but they were being asked to become the galaxy's protectors. The Zephyrians were calling for help, but Jake suspected they had no idea what kind of help they would get from a species that had evolved through constant warfare on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, the USS Thunderbolt and her Sister ships represented the cutting edge of human military technology. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategic doctrine had been developed through centuries of humans fighting humans in increasingly deadly conflicts. Earth had forged humanity into the perfect warriors, and now the galaxy was asking those warriors to save them. Jake had a feeling that the Zephyrians were about to learn what it meant to ask Deathworlders for help.